Okay, now this is another picture which is showing that the tropical forest region, they are saying Ecuador, they are saying Ecuador, okay, it has got higher plant species. And if we move towards the temperate forest regions, okay, in the USA, there we have got lesser number of um, plant species. So this is example of plants. Now moving on, there is another example of species found in Amazonian rainforest. You must have heard about this. The other name for this is, it is common, Amazon forest is commonly known as lungs of earth also. Okay, it is believed that it has got greatest biodiversity on earth. So this is one area, this is one region where the species diversity is highest. Okay, so they have also given the number of plants, fishes, birds, mammals, amphibians, reptiles and invertebrates found in Amazonian rainforest itself. Okay, now when we talk about latitudinal gradients, now this is another very clear picture. Here you can very clearly see that it has got a polar zone. Here you can clearly see, if you have not still understood, this is equator region, this is equator region, these are tropic regions, and you can see that sunlight falls on this region. Okay, it gets maximum amount of sunlight. Okay, now you can see this part is the temperate zone. Okay, and this is the polar areas. So these zones are very important to it is very important to understand these zones. If you don't understand these zones, you won't be able to understand this. Okay, now there is a hypothesis which explains that why greater biological diversity exists at tropics और नियर ट्रॉपिक्स. ओके, सो ये जो हाइपोथेसिस अभी हम डिस्कस करने जा रहे हैं, इसमें ये क्लियरली बताया है कि क्यों स्पीशीज़ डाइवर्सिटी जो है, क्यों बायोलॉजिकल डाइवर्सिटी जो है ट्रॉपिकल रीजन्स में, यानी विच इज़ नियर इक्वेटर, इज़ मोर. ओके, so 3 basic hypotheses are given. Okay, first one is that speciation is generally a function of time. Unlike temperate regions subjected to frequent glaciations in the past, tropical latitudes have remained relatively undisturbed for millions of years. Okay, तो ये जो थ्योरी है, ये जो फर्स्ट हाइपोथेसिस है, वो बिलीव करती है स्पेसिएशन मीन्स फॉर्मेशन ऑफ न्यू स्पीशीज़. ओके, सो फॉर्मेशन ऑफ न्यू स्पीशीज़ किस चीज़ पर डिपेंड करता है? टाइम पर. ओके, सो दे बिलीव दैट दीज टेम्परेट जोन्स are actually such regions, or you can say temperate regions are those areas where in the past they have faced glacier formation and other changes. Okay, but if we will look at tropical zones, okay, these tropical zones are actually undisturbed for long period of time. अगर कोई एरिया, कोई रीजन लंबे समय तक अनडिस्टर्ब्ड है, तो वहाँ जो ऑर्गेनिजम्स हैं, वहाँ जो स्पीशीज़ हैं, उनको ज़्यादा टाइम मिलेगा इवॉल्व होने के लिए. ओके, और इसीलिए वहाँ स्पीशीज़ डाइवर्सिफिकेशन हमें मिलता है. सो फर्स्ट point is very clear that for formation of new species, the time is very important, and tropical regions are more, you can say that they are undisturbed for long period of time. That's why organisms have got more time to evolve. That is why species diversification is more in tropical regions than in temperate regions. Okay, now let's come to the second hypothesis. It says tropical environments, unlike temperate ones, are less seasonal, relatively more constant and predictable. तो सेकेंड हाइपोथेसिस कहती है कि जो ट्रॉपिकल एनवायरनमेंट थे वो ज़्यादा, उनमें सीजनल डिफरेंसेस नहीं हैं. इसीलिए वो ज़्यादा कांस्टेंट रहे, उनमें जो चेंजेस थे वो ज़्यादा नहीं है, कांस्टेंट रहता है और प्रिडिक्टेबल है। अभी भी अगर आप देखेंगे ट्रॉपिकल एरियाज़ में, तो अभी भी हम प्रिडिक्ट कर सकते हैं कि वो एरिया कैसा होगा। उसमें रेनफॉल कॉन्स्टेंटली फ्रीक्वेंटली होता रहता है, ह्यूमिड है, एंड वहाँ पर जो सनलाइट है वो भी एम्पल अमाउंट ऑफ मिलती है, तो जो टेम्परेचर है वो भी जनरली बहुत ज़्यादा लो नहीं होता। और जहाँ पर भी कांस्टेंट एनवायरनमेंट रहता है मिलियंस ऑफ ईयर्स तक, वहाँ पर निच स्पेशलाइजेशन हो जाता है, यानी जो ऑर्गेनिजम्स हैं एक पर्टिकुलर हैबिटेट में रहने लग जाते हैं, उनके रिसोर्सेज को यूज़ करने लगते हैं और इवॉल्व होते हैं। तो ये सबसे इम्पॉर्टेंट है। सो दैट इज़ वाई दिस इज़ द सेकेंड रीज़न which explains why more species diversity is present in tropical regions, not on temperate regions. Third, the most important one is that they receive more solar energy available in the tropics. You can see here very clearly that the tropical zone is more illuminated, or you can say it is getting more solar energy. So because more solar energy is present, this energy will be utilized by plants, and obviously plants will then help in increasing the productivity. If more productivity will be there of that region, that area, or that particular region, then it will lead to more diversity of species. Okay, so this is the third important theory. So these three hypotheses are there. So in short, it is given tropics had more evolutionary time. You can see that tropics have got more evolutionary time. Okay, this is then again their relatively constant environment. Tropics have got more constant environment than temperate ones, and the third one is they receive more solar energy. So these are the three important let's move on to the second one, the most important topic, species area relationship. Okay, this species area relationship, simply it is explaining itself, it is a self-explaining term. Species richness will be more as we explore a particular area. Okay, so species here means species diversity, or you can say species richness, and an area is that particular area which we are exploring. So there is a relationship between species diversity and area. And Alexander von Humboldt, he's a South American ecologist. He was a geographer also, and he's a German geographer. He worked in this area, and he found that species richness increases with increasing explored area, but only up to a limit. ओके, सो उन्होंने ये देखा कि स्पीशीज रिचनेस इंक्रीज होती रहती है, स्पीशीज डाइवर्सिटी इंक्रीज होती रहती है अगर आप एक पॉइंट से चलना शुरू करेंगे और आपको नए स्पीशीज़ प्लांट्स और एनिमल्स के मिलते रहेंगे। लेकिन किसी भी पर्टिकुलर एरिया में ये जो स्पीशीज़ डाइवर्सिटी है अनलिमिटेड नहीं हो सकती। एक पर्टिकुलर एरिया के बाद वो रुक जाएगा, यानी स्पीशीज़ रिचनेस नहीं बढ़ेगी, इंक्रीज नहीं होगी। That is why he said that species richness increases with increasing explored area. So this is a very important term. I hope this is a very important definition. So I hope it is clear. Now moving on to the species area relationship, if we plot it in a graph, we'll find so this type of graph. Here you can see species richness and area, they are plotted. And if we will plot, you can see that if it is starting from 0, if we are moving on in an area, so species richness will increase, it will keep on increasing, but after a certain point it will stop. That is why this has become like this. Okay, so this is a rectangular hyperbola which you are looking at, this blue line. This is rectangular hyperbola. So there are, if you will look at the equation, it is S equals to Ca to the power Z. S stands for species richness, A stands for area, and C stands for the y-intercept. Okay, and Z is the slope of line or regression coefficient. Okay, so this equation is important, S equals to Ca to the power Z. But if you will plot it in the logarithmic scale, okay, we will find a straight line. Okay, so the equation changes to S will become log S, C will become log C, and A to the power Z, we will write it as Z log A. So this is the equation on the logarithmic scale. And again, it is similar. As we keep on increasing area, the species richness will increase, but only up to a limit. So this is species area relationship. Okay, now the question arises, what is regression coefficient? Okay, regression coefficient here means the difference. Okay, for small areas, like for example you are exploring species in a very small area, the difference, the Z value, the regression coefficient will be very small. That means the difference in the finding of new species is not more. So it ranges from 0.1 to 0.2. But if we are taking two very large areas, like if you are taking one continent and another continent, so that in that case the regression coefficient will increase 0.6 to 1.2. So this is a regression coefficient. And again, it is found that for frugivorous birds and mammals, frugivorous here means fruit eating birds and mammals, found in tropical forest, if you will look at different continents, the birds and mammals which eat fruits, if you will study them, because they belong to larger areas, so the value of regression coefficient, that is Z, is 1.15. Okay, so this is a species area relationship, and explained in rectangular hyperbola. So moving on to the next important topic, importance of species diversity. Why should we study species diversity of a particular area, and what is its importance? Now, species diversity, there is one study given by David Tillman, and he said that if we are going to have plots, okay, so he did one experiment in which actually he created outdoor plots to and he wanted to study them in a particular time period, and the time period he took was 1 year. डेविड टिलमन ने एक ऐसे एक्सपेरिमेंट्स किए जिसमें उन्होंने लॉन्ग टर्म इकोसिस्टम एक्सपेरिमेंट्स जिनको कहा गया था, उन्होंने आउटडोर प्लॉट्स बनाए जिन्हें उन्होंने स्टडी किया, जिनकी प्रोडक्टिविटी को स्टडी किया ईयर आफ्टर ईयर. ओके, उन्होंने ये देखा कि जहाँ पर स्पीशीज़ डाइवर्सिटी, जिस प्लॉट में स्पीशीज़ डाइवर्सिटी ज़्यादा थी उसकी हायर प्रोडक्टिविटी थी, और जिन प्लॉट्स की स्पीशीज़ डाइवर्सिटी कम थी उनकी प्रोडक्टिविटी कंपैरेटिवली लो थी. सो ही फाउंड दैट, ही कंक्लूडेड दैट द इंक्रीज्ड डाइवर्सिटी contributes to higher productivity, and it is essential, it is very important for ecosystem health and survival of human race. So that's why we must know that species diversity is very important for any ecosystem. Okay, now when we talk about another important theory, and it is known as Rivett-Popper hypothesis, and it also explains the importance of biodiversity, and it was given by Paul Ehrlich, and he explained it in a very interesting way. He was a Stanford ecologist, and he took an example of a plane. Okay, according to him, that plane actually resembles an ecosystem. So if we assume that a plane is an ecosystem, we know that in a airplane all parts are joined together using many rivets. So these small screws which join each and every part is known as rivet. So just assume that each rivet is a species. Okay, we know that planes carry passengers, and just imagine that if passengers who are coming on the plane will take one rivet. So he said if passengers pop a rivet, अगर हर पैसेंजर एक राइवट को निकाल के ले जाता है तो वो राइवट रिप्रेजेंट कर रहे हैं स्पीशीज़ को, और अगर वो निकाल के ले जाते हैं इसका मतलब है दैट स्पीशीज़ इज़ इट गेट्स एक्सटिंक्ट. लेकिन अगर पैसेंजर एक प्राइवेट ले जाते हैं, फ़्लाइट सेफ्टी के लिए कोई इशू नहीं है, यानी एरोप्लेन को कोई इशू नहीं है, फंक्शनिंग प्रॉपर तरीके से होती रहेगी. बट अगर हमेशा एक एक पैसेंजर एक एक राइवट्स को निकाल के ले जाता रहे तो एक टाइम ऐसा आएगा कि एक ऐसा राइवट होगा जिसने कुछ इंपॉर्टेंट पार्ट्स को शायद जॉइन करके रखा होगा, और जैसे ही उस राइवट को निकाला जाएगा पूरा प्लेन कोलैप्स हो जाएगा. सो इन द सेम मैनर ईच राइवट्स रिप्रेजेंट्स a species, and these important species in ecosystem are known as keystone species. And if we will take them, or if they get extinct by any other means, it will cause imbalance in the ecosystem. So this is the importance of you can say species in the species diversity. So each species plays important role in the species diversity. So the most important species in an ecosystem are known as keystone species. Okay, so this is the theory given by Ribot-Popper hypothesis. I hope it must be clear. Thank you.